Welcome to our 5 on 5. We're pleased to be joined by Ashland Police Chief Terry Holderness. Chief, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Good evening. Thank you.
All right, so I know we're here to talk about something else, but I got to ask you, what is the latest on the David Grubbs investigation?
Well, the investigation is still ongoing and active. We still have actually several leads that we're still following up on. It's unusual this long into a case. You would expect you'd either exhausted all your leads or you would have made an arrest. We're still continuing to receive leads, I think partially because of all the publicity we've had on this particular case. Mm-hmm. I think the most interesting thing on the case is that we've interviewed hundreds of people now, and we've still not been able to find a single person that could even think of anybody that had a reason to harm David Grubbs. He's like one of the most universally loved people I've ever heard about. And we've interviewed everyone he's worked with that we're aware of. We've interviewed friends and acquaintances going back to people that he knew in high school. In fact, we interviewed his girlfriend his sophomore year in high school, which has been quite a few years. So, and we still can't find anyone that can even, once again, think of a reason that anyone would have to harm him.
Yeah, very loved young man. All right, well, I want to ask you, it sounds like we're getting more posters out there right now, and the reward says $10,000, but there's even more available, is that right?
We haven't been updating it on a daily basis. It's a little over 11,000 now. We put the posters out again recently. Once again, we found that whenever we do a major publicity, something to publicize a case again, we tend to get more tips in, so we'll continue to do that as long as it's fruitful.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right, now I want to talk about Sexual Awareness Month. April is Sexual Awareness Month. You guys are being proactive about this. Tell us about this event you're having next week.
Oh, this is really our big event of the year for crime prevention. When we look at Ashland, occasionally we'll have an event like the Grubbs homicide. Generally speaking, our most significant ongoing violent crime issue is sexual assault. We're a university town with a lot of alcohol and substance abuse, and you put all those things together, and we have a significant number of sexual assaults in the town every year that are reported. And we know that statistically speaking, somewhere between 1 in 5 to 1 in 10 are only reported. So there's for every 10 we get, there's probably another 50 to 100 out there that we don't know about.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And tell us about the guest speaker at next week's event.
Our guest speaker is Dawn Schuler. She has an interesting past. When she was 15 years old, she met Mr. John Holmes, who at the time was either a famous or infamous porn star, however you want to consider it. Subsequent to that meeting, Mr. Holmes groomed her to sexually and physically abuse her. Several years into that relationship, Mr. Holmes was a suspect in a pretty prominent murder, the Wonderland murder case in Southern California. And he actually supported himself when he was hiding out in that case by prostituting, forcing Ms. Schuler into prostitution. And sexual assault is a big issue everywhere. Sexual human trafficking, sexual slavery is something else that happens. And she's in a position to talk about how it happened to her. This was a middle-class 15-year-old growing up, how she ended up forced into prostitution, how she ended up in a relationship with someone that was over twice her age, where she was both physically and sexually abused. It's a pretty compelling story, not just because Mr. Holmes had a certain amount of fame and because of their association with the homicides. The fame of Mr. Holmes and the homicide is a really kind of a unique thing that sets this incident aside, or this situation. But this type of pattern where young girls are sexually abused by older men because they give them alcohol, they give them drugs, they teach them to trust them, and they're either sexually abused personally or sexually trafficked is a major problem around this country.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Much more with Chief Holderness in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to our 5 on 5. Again, we're here with Ashland Police Chief Terry Holderness talking about this Sexual Assault Awareness Month. You guys have some events going on. 3 prongs to this event. Tell us about that.
Yes, first prong is an educational event for both officers, advocates, anybody that responds professionally to sexual assaults. And that'll be next Wednesday and Thursday at Ashland Springs Hotel. The 2 prongs that we really want to talk about today are the 2 educational events. The first one will be Tuesday at 9:35 at Ashland High School for parents and students. And the second one will be the general community event, which will be at 6:30 Wednesday, April 4th at SLU Recital Hall. And that'll be, Dawn Schuler will actually be speaking at all 3 of those events. Okay. And actually, she's our keynote speaker at all 3 of those events.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And I understand you guys have already gotten some interesting feedback about this. Tell me.
We have got some really interesting feedback. One of the things we asked at the high school to send out letters to parents and children, students at the school to say, what questions do you want to ask, because we're going to have a panel at the end of the presentation.
Yeah.
And what interests you, what questions would you be embarrassed to ask? And we've had at least 8 or 9 students or parents have written back that clearly, based on the questions, they have either been sexually abused or know someone, have a close friend or family member that's been sexually abused, and they don't know what to do.
Wow, so people really need to get out there and understand what is legal and what is not.
And we need to get that information out to people.
Yeah.
And obviously we haven't been doing a good job when we're getting this many responses like that quickly.
Wow, okay, all right. And there's an email people can send if they have any questions?
Yes, Carrie.Hull, Hull, @ashland.or.us.
Excellent, all right. Chief, great to see you.
Thank
you. All right, stay with us. We'll be right back.